Alright, so for my final project, I decided to focus on uh, Berger's alienation and how uh, it's always been presented throughout, um, all throughout history, and no one ever wishes to put themselves in a situation where they feel isolated from a group, and that's kind of how I started out with the essay. And I believe that alienations within our society should has always been presented, and it was never really taken as a super serious issue. And I think through learning from this class, I was able to know about and learn the negative impacts and roles that it has presented within um, the three sources that I use. So the first source is Marxism. The second source is consumer society, and the last one I related to mass media. So the first source, I decided to talk about how Karl Marx envisioned how in the 1960s he always wanted to produce, even though he really wanted to produce materialism goods for people. Um, Many of the individuals that were working under the Marxism rule uh, faced alienation uh, events from within their groups, and whether or not if you were lower or the higher class, all of them faced alienation within their societies because not only did the workers have to face forceful tasks, but they also had to endure just so many mental and physical tools that basically almost pretty much weigh down their bodies because of all the hard work they had to do within their within the society, and they knew that all the work that they were doing, was pretty much for someone else's work. It wasn't really work for themselves. They're doing work for someone else, and that was the notion that they got, and a lot of these people ended up feeling alienated, and um, it eventually created this idea that a person's work would become so destructive that it would allow um, people to just come together and try and get ready. And so the second source I talked about was the consumer society, and how consumer society and advertising relates back to a capitalist society, and how it relates with alienation. And this part I talked about I took it from the sign reading because I knew that the reading talked about how consumption was always going to be an asset within our economy, and because of that, humans are always trying to aim for the highest goals ever, and they're always trying to get as much profit, as much money as they can whenever they have the chance to. So I believe this type of eager to get as much profit as they want to leads to the connection of how these types of advertisements have led to these type of people getting alienated and feeling alienated, and creating this type of anxiety within a capitalist society. And I believe the main negative issue that these commercials have reflected on the political issues that include themselves, and I think it just has allowed people to think and feel however they want, and it has pretty much just allowed people to not really get together and think the same way. And I think it has created these type of commercials have always been bad. And the last source that I talked about was discussed within the lectures and the PowerPoints, and it focused on how mass media and alienation kind of had some correlations within each other. And I believe that even though mass media somewhat helped the alienated workers, the primary job that it provides, giving out misery and sparking out desires, which led people to work harder. And since these people weren't able really to feel ways to get alienated, they gravitate themselves towards needing the money in order to work extremely hard. And I think that one of the good examples that the PowerPoint uses is the Coca-Cola factory facing trouble when encountered with all the activists that were supporting for animal rights over the pigeon deaths in the factory, and pretty much conveys the separation that people had on finding what they truly believed. And I just think that these sources really depict the immense impact that alienation had within society, and how even in today's society, social media has strongly alienated other people into groups that maybe one person doesn't want to be in, or one person doesn't want to not be in, and it makes them feel alienated. And I think people need to do a better job in focusing on not isolating people, because I feel like that's a big issue that really has been never really been taken as seriously as other major issues that other people on, and that's kind of the main reason why I picked this one to talk about, because I just thought it was one of the more important topics to learn about. So yeah.